Welcome to the North State Breakdown with Benjamin Nguyen. Today I'll be discussing the recently released investigation into the handling of the Attorney General's letter by Kevin Crye and Patrick Jones, and a concerning trend of minimizing violence by Patrick Jones and his supporters. Let's discuss the District Attorney's letter and the investigation that followed. Recently, a report was released concerning Supervisor Patrick Jones' actions regarding a letter from the California Attorney General's office. This report, although technically absolving Jones of any wrongdoing, also highlighted some concerning procedural gaps. To give you some context, the letter in question was a response from the Attorney General to a request originally sent by Kevin Crye on behalf of the Shasta County Board of Supervisors. Crye's letter had asked the Attorney General to investigate potential improprieties in the way District Attorney Stephanie Bridget handled the settlement funds related to the Zog fire. At the time, Crye made a bold statement.
Again, this is what I need the community to understand. You have individuals that want to get to the bottom of truth and possible corruption, and then you have those that either don't or they want to bury it. But you know what? Here's the great thing about this. Time will tell of what side each of us are on, and one of us will be highly vindicated and the other should be embarrassed.
This set the stage for a highly contentious and politically charged situation. The matter of the Attorney General's response was discussed during the May 7, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting. During this meeting, Patrick Jones admitted that he received the letter in January and alerted Kevin Crye to its contents.
As chair last year, this board authorized and sent that letter out for a request. I did not receive that letter back until January, and it was to be expected with the information that they had to work with. I did alert Chair Crye to it. He was chair at the time.
He also confessed to throwing the letter away.
Yeah, and so, I mean, if you're just wanting to know what happened to the letter, I received the letter, I destroyed the letter or threw it away. So there's your answer. All right, so I don't keep the letters. There is no retention policy with quiet.
Which is a critical point reflected in the Ellis investigation's report. Following Jones' admission, Kevin Crye attempted to downplay the significance of the letter.
And this is what I'll say. Everyone uses the word, and one side of the room gaslights us, saying the DA was exonerated, the DA was exonerated. The DA was not exonerated. If you read the letter and you read what we sent, it was basically, there's nothing to see here. Here you go.
This downplaying of the letter's significance is at odds with the public interest and the legal obligations of transparency. Now, why is this important? Well, under the California Public Records Act, the CPRA, this letter clearly falls within the definition of a public record. It was sent to a public official in their official capacity and pertains to public business, something addressing allegations made in a public meeting and clarifying the legal standing of the district attorney. The content of this letter is of significant public interest. By not disclosing the letter, both Patrick Jones and Kevin Crye may have violated the CPRA. The Act mandates disclosure of such public records unless a specific exemption applies, and the argument that the letter wasn't important does not align with the legal obligations under the CPRA. The law prioritizes the public's right to access information over a public official's subjective judgment. Moreover, the county's claim that it lacks a retention policy for letters does not absolve them from these responsibilities. The CPRA requires that public records be made available for public inspection, and that this obligation exists regardless whether a formal retention policy is in place. The absence of such a policy may highlight poor governance practices, but it does not exempt the county from complying with state transparency laws. There's also the issue with the potential Brown Act violations. The allegations made against District Attorney Stephanie Bridget were made during a public meeting, a forum governed by the Brown Act, which seeks to ensure transparency in governmental proceedings. The failure to disclose the Attorney General's response, which directly relates to these public allegations, undermines the transparency and accountability the Act was designed to protect. By withholding the letter, the board may have deprived the public of crucial information that would have informed their understanding of the allegations and the integrity of the officials involved. This lack of transparency could be seen as a form of indirect violation, as it hampers the public ability to engage meaningfully in the governmental process. If the letter exonerating Bridget was withheld to manipulate public perception or to maintain a narrative contrary to the facts, this could constitute a serious breach of the Brown Act's principles. The actions taken by the Board of Supervisors, particularly by Kevin Crye and Patrick Jones, may not only expose the county to legal challenges, but also damage public trust in local governance. To uphold the principles of open government, it is crucial that all relevant public records be disclosed in accordance with the law, and that public officials act transparency in the public's best interest. The potential legal ramifications for Kevin Crye, Patrick Jones, and Shasta County are significant. Violations of the CPRA could result in litigation against the county, potentially leading to court orders compelling the release of records, fines, and attorney fees. Moreover, intentional violations of the Brown Act could result in criminal charges against the involved officials. If it is found that there was an intentional effort to manipulate public perception by withholding the letter, this could lead to civil lawsuits or further state-level investigations. At one point, Kevin Crye had previously mentioned that he wanted to vote for this investigation to make Supervisor Mary Rickert look bad.
In closing with R2, it passed. Four of the five of us. Supervisor Jones said no on doing the investigation. It's not because he doesn't want the investigation. He just admitted it. He said he threw the letter away, so there's no investigation needed in his eyes. And I'm just solely doing it so Supervisor Rickert can have egg on her face when we spend $30,000 and there is zero conclusion that anything happened.
He also insinuated that her opponent in the District 3 race should create an ad for the money spent on this investigation.
I am going to vote for the investigation, and what I hope is people in District 3, I see Mr. Harmon is here, I hope that you make an ad of this whole thing and the money that was spent.
After the closed session on August 20th, Crye stated that he had worked with CEO Rickert to develop methods to ensure similar incidents wouldn't happen again.
And in May of 24, as this was unfolding, I asked CEO Rickert to change or make policies going forward that this would not happen again, and I can assure you that we have fixed and remedied this problem going forward.
It would appear that this is an admission that the county's policies and procedures were either not properly followed or were insufficient to handle the situation. Remember his statement at the beginning of this investigation?
But you know what? Here's the great thing about this. Time will tell of what side each of us are on, and one of us will be highly vindicated and the other should be embarrassed.
That statement feels particularly relevant now. The release of the Ellis investigation's report to the public wasn't the only controversial thing to happen at the August 20th meeting. During this meeting, an altercation occurred involving Christian Gardinier, who was assaulted by Thomas Hildebrandt. Several reports provided detailed accounts about what happened. According to the video footage from this meeting, the altercation began when Thomas Hildebrandt was at the podium addressing the supervisors.
It's up to one guy, I guess.
I was talking with him. I'm sorry.
Thomas?
You see me where?
If we can.
Well, he's speaking up. I'd kick his ass out.
The actual assault happened shortly after Hildebrandt's public comment, off camera, but the reactions from the board members clearly indicated that something serious had occurred.
Christian? Okay. Hey. Hold on 1 second. Did he punch him?
Christian's account of the incident suggests that he tried to de-escalate the situation by placing his hand on Hildebrandt's shoulder in a friendly gesture. However, this gesture appears to have been misunderstood, leading to Hildebrandt striking Gardner in the abdomen. What makes this incident more troubling is the differing accounts from the board members. Supervisor Patrick Jones described Hildebrandt's action as a sharp poke to the abdomen, a characterization that seems to downplay the seriousness of the assault. In contrast, Supervisor Tim Garman witnessed Hildebrandt striking Gardinier with his fist in the abdomen, a more aggressive and violent act than what Jones had described. This discrepancy between the supervisor's accounts raises concerns about potential bias and the intent to minimize violent behavior by a known supporter. It's important to note that this incident is not Hildebrandt's first act of aggression. He was involved in a previous incident where he shoved a reporter, Mike Mangus, in September of 2022. Hildebrandt is a veteran who's expressed frustration with government and has had chronic medical issues, which some might argue could explain his quick reactions. Hildebrandt's frequent presence at events supporting Patrick Jones and his support of recalling previous District 2 Supervisor Leonard Modi may provide context for his actions. The recall movement led by Jones had often taken a hardline stance against perceived political adversaries and created an environment where aggression is, at times, tacitly encouraged or excused. Christian Gardinier, despite being the victim, showed remarkable composure.
I want to let Thomas know that I'm not going to let this go any further. Thomas and I have actually had some really good conversations, and I'm really concerned about his health. And I think he got confused. I was laughing at something that the officer over here had said. Thomas got a little confused. He's a good guy.
What's deeply concerning is how certain board members and their supporters have minimized these violent incidents. Individuals involved in the Modi recall and supporters of Kevin Crye and Patrick Jones have downplayed the violence, trivializing its seriousness. This is not just dismissive, but dangerous. For example, in discussions on programs like Mountaintop Media Times and Poke the Hornet's Nests, individuals sympathetic to Jones and Crye have suggested that Christian was at fault for merely touching Hildebrandt's shoulder.
So Christian sticks his hand on his shoulder. Well, Thomas, who has PTSD, and he was in the thick of it over in Vietnam, give him a punch in the tummy. It probably traveled a foot. I mean, you're not standing back there taking a swing with a baseball bat. It's, don't put your hands on me. And that was the end of it. Well, now they've made a big deal about it.
Of course.
And, you know, like I say, Thomas is a wonderful person.
While they might argue a point about personal space, the level of violence used by Hildebrandt was disproportionate and unacceptable. It's also important to note that Mountaintop Media Times is connected to the same individuals who produced the Red, White, and Blueprint docuseries.
The problem is this other individual comes in and makes everybody uncomfortable with speaking, and he's the one who infringes on people's rights to speak because he is constantly disrupting. He is constantly making people feel nervous.
My belief is that that's a game.
100%.
You know, it's like pulling. It's like somebody. You know, you're not a terrorist if you come in and pull the pin,
right?
And then the bomb goes off. Well, no, you were at the bomb,
right?
So he's just pulling pins.
He's just, his job and what he does on the weekly is just to agitate.
They have a vested interest in downplaying these incidents, especially when a supporter of theirs, like Hildebrandt, is committing acts of violence. This connection is a conflict of interest that compromises their ability to report objectively on such matters. It's also worth mentioning the 2021 incident involving Carlos Zapata, a figurehead of the Red, White, and Blueprint docuseries, who has a history of promoting and engaging in violent acts. Zapata was involved in an altercation with Nathaniel Pinckney at Pinckney's workplace. During this incident, Zapata accompanied Chris Meyer and Elizabeth Bailey, who physically attacked Pinckney. In the footage, you can see that Meyer tried to use a CO2 container as a weapon, something that could have caused serious harm or potentially a fatality. Zapata was charged with disturbing the peace by fighting and sentenced to anger management for his role in the assault, while Meyer and Bailey faced disturbing the peace by fighting and battery charges. This incident serves as a reminder that political violence has been an issue for some time in Shasta County. I would also like to address an incident involving a news cafe's founder, Donnie Chamberlain. On July 6, 2023, journalist Donnie Chamberlain attended a meeting at the Cottonwood Community Center, which she believed was open to the public based on its advertisement on Facebook. The event, organized by local conservative leader Jesse Lane, aimed to unite various far-right groups in Shasta County. Despite public promotion, Chamberlain was asked to leave by the organizers, who claimed they didn't want her misreporting their words.
Donnie, you've been asked to leave, just leave. Nobody wants you here, you're not going to report it anyway. There's a door right there, just leave.
When she refused, Mark Kent allegedly tried to forcibly remove her by grabbing her phone, which was attached to a lanyard around her neck.
Hey, let go. This is open to all patriots. You're not a patriot. You are not a patriot. Don't do that. Hey, you don't get to decide who's a patriot.
Resulting in injuries and a subsequent trip to the emergency room. Chamberlain posted about this on her social media, while Kent later discussed it at length on his show, Sovereign Minds.
And I'm going to show this in a second, so that you can make up the decision for yourself. And these are the lies that have been spread, that I broke the lanyard around her neck, that she was assaulted, she was injured. And of course, she's calling her attorney because she's been assaulted already. And these people, you could define assault anything, looking at them wrong, touching their hand. I mean, that's her definition of assault here.
This type of violence cannot be tolerated. It sets a dangerous precedent, especially when members of our current board majority and their supporters speak so flippantly about it. We're witnessing a troubling pattern where violence is minimized and critical information is withheld to control the narrative. And that's The Breakdown.